Hello, everybody, and everybody's bot.
I know. I wish I could get my bot to join these, but I haven't figured it out yet as from a hosting side.
You get the recording for free.
Yeah, I know. I do.
Yeah, but I enjoy talking to the bots, you know.
You do. You like verbalize to the AI note takers during our meetings. You're like, "Hey bot, remind me." I can tell you've got your little AI scripts crawling those.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, remind me to do
I have a
this.
whole terminal session on a screen that tells me that syncs every hour on the hour and tells me all the things that I'm forgetting to do based on all the recordings of all the
So
conversations.
I've been replaced. I feel like that was my job for like 2 years was to like nag Andrew on Slack.
Yeah, and
We are being replaced by AI. I've
it
been
like
replaced by
maps
AI.
out every conversation that I have into markdown files that then also like build a internal Wikipedia about my life that is then available it is super weird. Um
But isn't that like a good benefit? Like, isn't that a good thing to have been replaced so you don't have to do that?
Oh, 100. Yeah, please take that job. I don't need to like nanny Andrew. So
oh man. We got more and more folks coming.
Yeah, I'll give it just a few more minutes. Let people pop in, one more minute or two.
Hey
if
David.
anybody wants to, when they drop your favorite and least favorite thing about AI in the chat, let's hear everybody's. We do at our dinner table, at our home dinner table, we do like roses and thorns or highs and lows. Like when we go around the dinner table, I don't know if you guys do like you have weird rituals, things you do with kids. Like, what's your high and low of the day? What's your high and low around your AI usage so far? Anyone
Highs and
wants to
lows of
go?
AI.
Damon, you got a whole webinar on AI. You got a whole
Yeah.
webinar out of it.
Oh man. Um Yeah, we should do a poll, honestly, after this on like LinkedIn or something. Daily
See emails.
hallucinations. I like it. I like it. It just makes
Daily
stuff.
hallucinations.
Daniel, did
It forgetting all the things that I told it to remember. Like on my
yep.
like
Yes.
daily thing where I'm like, check this thing to see if anyone's told me to do anything here. And then I was like, wait, someone told me to do something here. And I was like, oh, you're totally right. Like you stopped asking for that. And so I decided you didn't actually care. And it was like the whole point of you.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
so that I don't have to keep asking. I
Yeah, yeah.
I've had that for emails where you can set up like the auto skill where it'll be like, "Hey, do you want me to like look at your emails and see what you have to reply?" And then it missed one because like it did it through like I was emailed through an alias and I'm like, "It's still in my inbox." Like, what do you mean? Stop.
I like McDonald's
Oh,
the way it wants to be
I
my
just,
friend
oh
is so
yeah.
annoying. Oh my gosh. I've started to like curse at it and try to be mean at for a long time. I think I was doing what a lot of people were doing, which is like, I'm gonna say please and thank you. So when you take over the world, like maybe you'll think positively of a silly thing to do, right? Like very
No, I
humanizing
yell at
thing
it
to
all the
do.
time.
Now I'm just like yelling at him, like, how did you we talk about this every day? How do you not know what we're talking about?
I do that when I ask it to write something and then it uses like the most AI slop language and I have a whole doc and I'm like, did you not read the doc that
Hmm.
I told you?
Yeah,
Why did
yeah.
you say
No, and
this?
it's like,
Why
you're
would you
totally
use the
right. I totally forgot to hear that. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is,
You're right. You're right to bring that up.
Yeah,
To point that
I
it
am.
out.
is though what it doesn't have the ability to know is whether or not anything it's produced is actually informational or not. So
Mm.
it can just guess, right? And so it includes a ton of like filler words and like weird turns of phrases and like inserts commas and sentence fragments into things where I'm like, can you just talk like a real person?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
That's all my notes on how to like not talk like AI. And I'm like,
it's
I
very
hate that you type in
uncanny.
these short sentences. I hate that you use the
Yeah.
word actually all the time. This is actually
Mm.
Adverbs.
insightful
I've told it multiple
information.
times, do not include a single adverb.
Mm. I guess this is welcome to our AI support group. For the people on the call, I would like to say we are AI realists here. Like we use it heavily. We've used every version of it. I just think this is very practical, tactical things that we think it can do well. But man, does it have its pitfalls? It's the hype machine is real. So we're gonna get into what you can do with it and also what you should absolutely not rely on it for. I'm always saying it, math. If you follow my LinkedIn posts, I'm like the amount of times if you just ask it, oh, let me summarize some point of sale data, and it's like I pulled the first 1,000 records in the set and the last 1,000, and then interpolated everything in between. Super useful.
Yes. What a beautiful segue that was. All right, then let's jump into it. Let's talk about what we should and shouldn't be doing in AI. Welcome, everyone. Hi, hello, happy Wednesday. My name is Court. I'll be your moderator for this. I'm going to say this at the front and back half of the intro. If you guys, we already have people typing in the chat. If you have any questions during this webinar at all, you can go ahead and throw that in the Q&A. There's a button down at the bottom, but also type in the chat. Obviously, we love the conversation. We will be answering things throughout it. But before we get started with today's webinar, I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of what Happy Cabbage does and why we put on presentations like this. So for those of you who are not familiar, Happy Cabbage helps retailers order what sells. And we do this through our platform called Happy Buyers. And we built it around one problem in particular, and that's that inventory is the single largest investment a retailer makes. And it's the biggest cash flow problem in the cannabis retail. Most operators can't see it clearly because for a long time they've been working out of spreadsheets. And the spreadsheets that they're running just don't show accurate data. And then if instead of spreadsheets, they're using, AI to grab those numbers connected to their POS, that also can show not accurate data. And for a long time, spreadsheets were the only solution. Every retailer had someone spend a long time building them, making them do what we need them to do. And I guess they technically did it, but spreadsheets can't track live inventory. They can't account for stockouts, share information across teams, send orders to vendors, store all those orders in one consistent place, or help you find the cash to open new stores. But happy buyers can. So whether you're the buyer or the retail manager or CEO, Happy Buyers helps you see what you need to plan your menu, what to order, and how to budget your inventory, and most importantly, get it done fast. Retailers who switch to Happy Buyers free up on average $150,000 in their first 3 months through overstock reduction, and then the buyers themselves save 10 to 20 hours a week. So while the data going into your spreadsheet or from the MCP might tell you to restock everything, Happy Buyers will tell you what you actually need, reducing your overall SKUs and most importantly, your slow moving ones. So your shelf is stocked with better selling products with a faster turnover, which means a leaner business. So we have a lot of great customers who love what we do and love the product. Here are some of them and some of their results. Feel free to reach out to any of them and ask them what they think about using our tool, how much time they've saved. Or if you rather not reach out yourself, we do have a lot of their stories on and results on our website. So you can head over to happycabbage.io/case studies to check those out after the webinar. And if you are on any of these POSs, we integrate with you. So that is Dutchy, Blaze, FlowHub, Trees, and Meadow. And then we also have some new and upcoming integrations with Apex, Navis, and Distro as well. But for those POSs, if you are on any of them, that means we can get you set up with a 14-day free, no commitment trial. And you can try Happy Buyers for yourself with unlimited users and your live store data. You'll be able to see your aged inventory numbers and dollar amounts, send orders to vendors, and even hook it up to an AI of your choosing and to do some of the things you'll see here today. And then if you're not ready for that 14-day free trial, we can start you off with an inventory audit. It'll show you exactly how much of your inventory is aging, where you're overstocked, discount percentages, where your margins are too low, and it'll help you save money and make an impact right away. And if you're on this call and you're already one of our customers or a brand or not with the dispensary at all, but a buyer who's still stuck in spreadsheets for hours a week, we have an awesome referral program. So $250 when they start a 14-day free trial, and then another $500 to you when they become a happy buyer.
And I just wanted to Thanks, Court. Really call out this. So with a lot of the AI stuff that we're doing, there's a lot of questions, a lot of like, how do I use it? There's a lot of everyone's telling me to use it. I don't know how to use it. How do I trust it? Does a lot of different stuff. We're pleased to announce that we now have live on our website our AI Hub. AI Hub includes a bunch of videos from these types of sessions and new content that we're constantly rolling out and adding about how you can integrate AI with happy buyers, how you can use it to do certain things, schedule your orders, reconcile wholesale menus, reconcile budgets, and all stuff that we're going to keep living and breathing to kind of help encourage not just the usage of AI, but then also make sure that everybody is using it correctly, like, and is not letting it kind of go off the rails and tell you to do things that you probably shouldn't do for your business overall. So, excited for that. Go on the website to check it out, and we will keep it updated and keep some live updates on that. And that includes some very shortly soon to come in-app AI agents, so you don't necessarily have to leave the tool to do new things. With all of that, we're going to be doing more of these sessions, and that's all going to culminate up to we are doing and hosting a formal cannabis AI summit, kind of under the hood of the previous CanadaDataCon. That will be in February in Miami Beach. I'm happy to say that every single customer of Happy Cabbage can attend this at absolutely no cost, and we are hopeful to be able to actually pull together some stuff where existing customers for a few, maybe run some contests or something to see if we can get an all expenses paid opportunity for folks to come through. So more on that. So stay tuned for that. But it's an exciting time. It's also a little bit of like a scary time. And so part of this content and series and stuff is to all kind of pull it together and kind of help make it practical to like what are the actual things that people are doing every day. So without that further ado from that, I'm going to flip it over to Danny to kind of kick us off and walk through using AI for menu planning.
And
Awesome.
like I, oh,
Oh,
before you
go, Court,
jump in,
go.
sorry, I just was going to say one more time. As a reminder, we have that little Q&A at the bottom, so you can ask questions in there and we'll reply in there or reply during this discussion, or go ahead and start chatting in the chat.
Yep. I love the discussion so far. Thanks for the highs and lows at my dinner table. I'm sitting at my dinner table because my little life always picks like fresh flowers from the yard for the webinars. We had a whole conversation about why I don't blur my background. It's just because of the flowers over there. So shout out to Flowers on the Table and AI menu planning. We are going to walk through some high level strategy on what to look for in market data specifically as it relates to menu planning. Menu planning and assortment is huge, right? There's a lot of things that go into it, from reciprocity to house brand mix to what your competitors are doing. Specifically here for our time today, we're going to talk about pulling in market data, comparing against your menu, and then making tweaks to your menu. These are things you could do today. You could leave these calls and do. You can do it with our data. I think everybody on this call who works in a retailer has access to market data. And I'm specifically going to shout out and show off some things with Little Alerts, who's a close partner of ours. We leverage their data. We're building some of their data in app to show some things around this. And we've leveraged the Little Alerts data for the market side of this today. So just want to give them a shout out on there. So let's talk about menu planning, right? A lot of it's guesswork. I think, for the buyers on the call, you would like to say, none of this is guesswork. What I mean is you're experimenting constantly, right? You're juggling thousands of SKUs, hundreds of brands, dozens of vendors. You're looking at your own sales. You're trying to compare yourself to your peers. You're trying to compare yourself to market trends and what you're hearing about and what your executive team is coming back and what your bud tenders are coming in and saying, this customer asked for this 5 times in a row. We're losing sales, right? You're having to make swaps constantly. If I carry this, I can't carry that. That should be the trade-off, right? If you go too wide on your menu, it shows up in aging. It shows up in this number on the right, which is slow installed SKUs. One thing I want to call out, we're going to be using our demo org today. Our demo org is anonymized real data. So we pull in different retail data, anonymize it for house brands and those things to not call anybody out. But these numbers are real. These are real stores. This is real store data. All the analysis is on real data. So when we pulled in this store for the comparison today, they had over $100,000 and slow installed SKUs. How can you minimize that, right? That's money you want to put into fast, high profit movers. That's what menu planning is about. What trade-offs can you make? What swaps can you make? What can you discontinue? What can you carry that you've never carried that you have high confidence will work? How do you right size an order to minimize risk to test something new, right? Don't go 10 cases deep on that order because that hype brand came through. I say this all the time. Brands will happily take your order any week, right? There are very few opportunities where it's like you can only order once a month. Maybe your ordering cadence is that, but you can test a small order, see how it goes, and then call them back the next week. They would love to take your phone call. They'd love to take your order through Happy Buyers. We'll show that. The data is here for this, right? How do you get it in one place? How do you compare apples to apples? How do you look at market data, not just through, oh, that's interesting. I've logged into, I'm not going to call them out. I love them to death. Headset, I logged into it. I looked at this data. Oh, I looked at my data over here. Like, how do you merge these sets and look at it and get suggestions on what to actually change and with the goal of increasing profit? So, two ingredients. I mentioned this. We're going to use Happy Buyers as a source of truth for your stores. That's all of your margins, your discounts, your aging products, your brand category mix, your product line math, which we'll talk about. What this dials into is accurate demand forecasting. We do a lot of heavy math. We do a lot of things AI is frankly terrible at. We pre-cache all of it so it's fast. You don't have to pull it. You don't have to deal with hallucinations. You can get your roll-up data. What's my aging percentage versus profit share within a category across brands? You can get that instantly. Anybody who's accessed that in our app knows the inventory health screens, right? If I was looking at my pre-rolls, I can get in here and figure out which brands are the percent share of profit and which brands are aged. I just switched this tab and clicked this. I didn't have this tab up. All of this stuff is available in less than a second. All this data is cached every night, which means if you were to pull it into an AI tool or chat with an agent around it, it can just use all of that data that we rolled up accurately at every intersection and not try to calculate it, introducing hallucinations. Then the market data lens. Go.
I'll also call out token usage on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another really good reason why we've staged all this data to be very easily queryable is that if you're trying to do raw data, so like raw data on POS or raw exports of data on AI, it's very, very heavy token usage,
Mm-hmm.
very, very heavy. And recently, services like Claude just cut their usage caps in half for the month type of stuff. And
Yep.
so the other reason why we do this is to make it so that like it can be very queryable with much lower intensity model type of stuff and a lot more
Yeah.
efficient.
If you were a heavy cloud user, I can't emphasize that enough. We all got our usage cut in half yesterday, right? Same price plan, half the usage. If you're wondering why this morning am I bumping up against these session limits so fast, subsidizing Claude Cowork for everybody to get everybody hooked in there. But if you do a lot of work in that heavy work, there's better solutions to minimize that. There's a lot of things deterministically that should be done outside of AI. And there's a lot of things that AI can be very, very good at. And we'll be highlighting all of that. Market lens, right? We're going to be using lit alerts here live. What's selling around you? What are your top brands? Let's analyze a competitor menu. Let's find opportunities that we may be missing. And what's cool is we're going to do this hyper locally, right? So if you're, in the UP in Michigan, if you've got a border state in some markets, bordering Iowa or a state that isn't legal, how can you get hyper local so you understand what people in that area are servicing for, and how can you also understand where you're differentiating? We don't want all groupthink, right? We don't want to all be lemmings. We don't want all the same cookie cutter store. How can you use data to see, am I truly being competitive here by going so broad? Am I truly being competitive by focusing in one category or the other? Back it up with data. Always back it up with data. Andrew's a data scientist. We're a data science heavy company. Back it up with data. So we're going to be joining these two things. We're going to be using AI to do this, and we're going to find some insights in a real menu. So what do we look for? If you were doing this manually, right? Anybody who's doing any, I think, work that produces good ROI in AI was doing it manually before, right? I think one thing that has become very clear is that if you have expertise in an area, you can wield AI for good, right? You can automate your tasks. You also know how to QC the output, and I can't emphasize that enough. If people that are using AI and having a bad time are using it in areas that they have no expertise, it's gonna respond with confidence. It's gonna tell you this number is this number and to do this thing, and you're like, oh great, I'll go do that thing. If you don't have the lens to look at it and be like, are you sure? And then have it, as we talked about the beginning call, oh, you're right to point that out. I completely ignored the entire data set and used numbers from last week, right? If you've QC'd the output, you've seen that it happens constantly. We're gonna look at these things, and I think all of you that are in retail roles are doing some level of this. How can we do it? How can we get to these insights faster, right? So we're looking at category mix. We're looking at brands you don't carry today that are opportunities. Profitable products. I just can't emphasize the word profitable enough. It's not just that this thing sells, it sells at a discount and a profit margin that is acceptable to your business. It's not just this is the fastest mover. Happy Cabbage and Happy Buyers app has fought the run rate units sold as the only source of truth since we released the app, right? That is not what it's all about. If you maximize for that number and you over rotate, or if you're a gamer and you min max to that stat, you're going to have a bad time when it comes to profit, right? So profitable products nearby. What are the duds, and how can we validate things that aren't moving? And what's the new hotness? What are new products that are rising that I should get in front of? These are the 5 things. This is part of menu planning and assortment mix. We're going to point it at a real menu, and we're going to fix it looking at those kind of 5 steps in here, right? Let's talk about category mix. So I'm going to show some sample prompts here, and then I'll show you where I ran this, right? So let's just flip over and just like look at the harness, and you can see these things are all real, right? We're going to be looking at hyper local competitive analysis. I'm using lit alerts. I'm using a specific store here, and we're telling it, look at the last 30 days. This is a zip code for a super hyper local area. Tell me brands that are doing well that are not present on my menu, right? That's what this prompt is. There's simpler versions of this. You can see, kind of the refinements that we get into of like, this is like my 6th version of this to get the exact data I want. The sample prompt on the slide that you'll have is something that you can run. You can run this through any harness, any agent. Most of them are pretty comparative these days. And Andrew mentioned it. We are building all of this in app so that you can do all of this inside Happy Buyers in the near future and not have to bounce around between tools. But you might have tools you're using in there. You might have these data sources connected. Let's find my top local brands that I don't carry within a 15-mile radius using trailing 30-day data with lit alerts estimated sales, right? So this is 30-day sales across all my competitors in here. You can see some big numbers. The thing that jumps out here is there's $2 million in sales happening in my hyper local region, not present on my menu. That might need to be considered, right? That's a big number. That's a good enough number. There's probably something in here I want to do. And then you can see they kind of give you the caveat here of what is being used. So all of these cleared my store and need to be considered, right? So I'm taking a look at that. And you can see a simplified version of this, right? Show my category mix versus local demand. Each category is aging. So this is where we're starting to mix. I've got lit alerts data on what's selling. I've got top brands in here. Sorry, I was on the top brand slide here. I look at this, like what are my 15-mile, stores or brands that I don't carry in the store across this 15-mile radius to get hyper local ranked results here in order to consider for my menu mix, right? So now I've got a list of brands. And once again, it's compared against my menu. Like we're using our data, we're using the market data. Now I've got a gap analysis here, right? So I'm going to be looking at this in the lens of what's not on my menu. I'm going to go back to this one that I had out of order here. In our next prompt that now I have my top 5 brands and I have this gap, I want to start considering, okay, I've got brands and now I know the products they carry. Do I have room? Right? So it's like, cool, I've got a thing in here. So do I have room for this? So I'm taking this now and I'm going through and using the lit alerts data and our data. And I'm saying, go through my categories, go through these brand products categories that are present that I'm considering, and tell me if my mix is right. Do I already have room? Or is this category oversaturated? Is it undersaturated? So we're doing like a category fit analysis because the really, and you can see, look at this. You love anybody who uses any harness. Did you just stop working? I have to leave it up because it's very real because I'm like talking to it and it just stops spinning. And did you pause? Still going. Yeah, I think it lied to me. It was definitely paused. It was not doing anything for like 30 minutes in here, right? Um, this is stuff, and I just want to highlight this is a good use of AI. Why is this a good use of AI? What is it doing in the seam of the AI to like what I could do programmatically? It's category matching and brand matching in a very fuzzy way because it's pulling in 20 menus where people call things different, extracts versus concentrates because they're using different ecom menus. You know, my brand has an S on the end of it, or we always love the California. Stizzy has 17 eyes in it instead of 3. Fuzzy matching AI is great at, right? It's going to do like a waterfall fuzzy matching on here. And it's going to go through and kind of figure all of these things out. It built out, you know, that AI loves to do this. It built out a 4-page document opportunity review. I'm not going to walk you through a 4-page document review on here, right? But it's doing this menu analysis to figure out, do I have room? So I've got a set of brands that I want to consider in here. Where are my opportunities to actually plug in a brand, right? This is really, really powerful. I would highly recommend you look at your category mix, and you can do this at multiple levels of your inventory. As you see in Happy Buyers, you're probably doing this already, right? You've got all of your categories here. If I click on a store, I think we said we were looking at Western Burbs, right? I can see, all of my brand and category mixes here. We cache all this data. Again, the data that we have is highly accurate and instantly accessible. You can get it in the UI and get it through the API in here, right? And we have the mix at share of aged, share of profit. We have all of these KPIs built every night, instantly available. So you can do this analysis to a high degree of that. You don't need to run through your data. If you are burning tokens, you are spending a lot of money and you're going to get it wrong. It cannot do the analysis across the tens of thousands of sales transactions that happen every day. You do not want to run AI on that. Software is great for that. Databases are great for that. We spend a lot of time optimizing databases to make the retrieval of this instantly available. That's the data that we're mixing in here, right? So a simplified version of this, once again, it kicked out a 4-page document. I don't want to read half of it. It wasted a lot of words. But what's interesting here is what's your mix versus the demand mix in a hyper local market, right? So this kind of tells you we always want to look hyper locally when we're doing menus when we can, because there's different border towns operate different than urban districts or operate different than your suburban stores, right? So we're trying to do apples to apples here. And even in some of the prompt refinement, we can refine it to say stores of a similar size, right? Like I want to compare, here's my run rate of the store, find the stores that do about this much in sales. You can really find peer groups to compare to. So there's some interesting things in here. And what I loved doing here on mixing the data is like the mix is interesting, right? But it doesn't tell you the story of like, are you profitable in that mix? Are you aging well in that mix? Is it the right mix for you already? The aging is like a key indicator here. I also mentioned, all this data we have, you can use for the comparison. Percent share of aging, but profit, right? We could do it. You can optimize for your different levers here that you want to pull for your store. If you're trying to just grab customer base and you just want to do 45 days of units sold in a category because I'm establishing extracts and we haven't carried it, go for that. Tell it like I want to maximize this on units sold and we can let profit slip for a bit. You have different business goals in there. We're always trying to reduce aging. This is where most of the cash in cannabis is tied up. So I want to look here. Tinctures, we're not surprised, right? You can barely buy a case and sell it in a month. It's always one of the aged categories in here. So you can see in here, like we've kind of trimmed it down pretty low, even lower than local demand, and we're already aging. It's trimmed down and saying it's overbought in here. But the two that are interesting is like 3 of my main categories are in line. I loved this call out, right? And once again, this is real data. This store, compared to the local competitors, specializes in vapes, and they do really, really well in vapes. And those vapes aren't aging that high. They're within our 10% parameter. We don't really want to see more than 10% of inventory hit aged. 6%, is fine in that. And we're almost 10% mixed into vape more than local. And that's probably serving us really, really well in this, right? So it's like, keep that. Understand it's healthy. Again, you can say, or your management can say, we're the Walmart of weed. We have every extract in here. We have every edible flavor. Like you hear these things, back it up with data. Is it serving you well? And multiple things can be true. Can I make a tweak if I need to make it true and make it profitable? Make it true and profitable is what we're trying to do in here, right? So vapes look good and it's cool because it's a call out that you're a specialty. But you got room to grow extracts. You're at half the mix of extract. Your extracts are like underaged potentially in here. Like this is kind of telling us like these things sell really, really well. That's your lowest aging of any category, and your mix is low on it, right? So I need to pull in some extracts in this order, is what this thing is telling me. Grow this line item. Here's another input as I'm considering top brands and products so that I make the right order. Do I have room on the menu? I have room on the menu in extracts, especially. So we went through top brands. We went through that. I'm going to go into profitable products versus duds because the next thing I've got to do in making room is make sure I make a good educated bet. These are all experiments. We're going to make a small order to reduce risk, but I want it to be a high likelihood of success. So I want to find things that are profitable in these stores, not just selling well. And I want to cut my duds to make room for them. So in our product, in Happy Buyers, we do that. We always have this low profit considered discontinuing, right? We have a whole suite of functionality around discontinuing products, making room on your menu, making sure you never reorder this, right? Everybody has the story, and I just heard it. We just got off a call with a customer before this webinar who said, I'm using these VMI reports from brands and they keep telling me that I've got this fast mover that I need to restock. And it was a fast mover because I discounted it 50% to clear it out and I'm getting it off the menu. And if we're just using general data, it's like, oh man, this thing is awesome. This thing is selling twice as fast as it used to be. Like, let's order 10 cases of it. We make sure that you never do that. You can go through any set of products. You can update your carry status here to mark it discontinued. We will hide it from your default views. It will never be surfaced in a suggested order. Anytime you share inventory with vendors for VMI, it will show up on a very clearly marked do not send list. Making room on the menu, you literally need to make room on the menu. For us, that's like cleared out, discontinue it, right? Make room for it. So we talk about like what to do with the duds. We have the functionality to do that. We're going to leverage that here. And we're actually going to use the API to do it. You can do it directly through the API, which means you can do it through talking agentically, having the agents find this, surface it. And if you worked in AI, you'll see the agent, oh, I think these products should be suggested. Okay, do it, right? Just like ones that are like, okay, go do it. Thanks. Take care of that for me. We have the functionality. It's exposed, right? So a little bit on prompt refinement here of going through this, right? And these are some things that I was going through here about like, okay, I got all this. What should I add to the menu? Well, let's look at my neighbors and what should I add to the menu? Well, let's get rid of house brands from my neighbors. Let's look at the top sellers. Let's cross-check the 10. Let's flag dead weight to clear, right? So I had it flag the dead weight here in these prompt examples. And how to clear it, right? So it goes through and in that, and I can just tell it, when you go through here, you say I love this, like dead weight, it's dead in the market too. And this is like a really, really cool, interesting thing in this prompt refinement as we were playing with this to do is it a me problem or is it a product problem? And can I get data to validate that, right? These are conversations we have all the time. Sometimes we under merchandise products. Sometimes we under train bud tenders on products. Sometimes that case could be in the vault, not sellable on the sales floor and literally not on your menu and nobody knows about it, right? You need to double check. You need to double click in. You need to look at the data. I got $100,000 in slower stalled SKUs. This is space I can fill. These are the swaps I want to make. Double check. Is it dead here and in the market? And when you mix market data, you can find that signal, right? And say, if it's dead on my menu and it's dead in the market, cut it. I don't even need to think about it. I don't need to talk about it. Market discontinued. which I had to do here, right? So I had to go through, and I'll just look at, we have in the upper left here, our carry status, continue. You can see by default, we only show things in here. But I had to go through and start discontinuing things on the menu to make room off of that prompt. Go for it. If it's dead here and it's dead in market discontinued. Get out of my way, get out of my mental capacity, put it on discount, get out of there, right?
I
If
think
it
it's also
sells, go.
really, I would just say this. I also think it's really important to understand from like when I'm up in the morning and I'm opening up my, chat box and I'm starting to go through this process and I want to like do it in this systematic way, I would always encourage first asking, what should I cut before asking, what should I add? The great thing about
Mm-hmm.
that discontinue feature is the AI will actively flag it a discontinue in the system and remember it, right? Because it's recorded in our system. So when you then go back 3 weeks later and you're trying to do the same task again, it's going to be like, hey, you discontinued this product, right? Are you sure you want to suggest adding it if it's on the market, right? And that I think is really important with what Danny is showing on terms of making sure you're asking, yeah, I get that this is on the market, but is it moving on the market or is it just
Mm-hmm.
sitting in a bunch of people's menus and hasn't actually moved at all? Right. And that's where you really get into the like iterative kind of steps where first you're asking, what should I discontinue? What should I cut? Then you're saying, can you compare that suggested of what to cut based on what the market is flagging? Perhaps there's stuff that I just need to flag to the bud tenders to change how we're putting it on the shelf. Then you're asking, where are my new opportunities to add new products, right? And then when you come and do that process 2 weeks later, you have the memory in the system of everything that you did previously. So you're not losing that new context that needs to fit into the AI. And on top of that, going back to token usage, if you try to build off of old sessions, and I think a lot of folks have realized this, as you build off of old sessions, you start becoming incredibly consumption heavy, which is why you want to make sure that the data around decisions that you made is stored outside the bot itself. Or else what it has to do is reload every single conversation you've had with it. And
Yeah.
it burns through essentially 25% of your usage on on startup. Not
Yep.
even on
It's
massive.
directly correlated to hallucination. So I think people that are kind of dabbling in AI, playing with AI, and when you get those long running chats, you see it pop up the progress bar, compacting context. Anytime the context is compacted, your percentage of hallucinations increases because what it is doing is summarizing the data itself and then only reloading that for the rest of the work. So if you were to pull in detailed sales transactions and detailed market data and all these detailed things, right? Like when we look at like there's numbers, right? Like what's my brand, my vape performance intersection at every store across every brand, and what's the product run rate data, right? If you're using this direct from an MCP from a point of sale, which are great. Like this is all best tool for the job. I just want to be very clear that like we're not picking on any, there's the right tool for the job. You want to throw things on discount that are aged, like use the MCP on that, have it filter a small set of products, kick it back to the point of sale. If you're doing deep analysis and you're doing analysis on a lot of numbers and it is compacting your context, it will hallucinate on your summaries because it is throwing out data, summarizing data itself. And the next thing you ask, the piece of information you needed might have been tossed out in that compacting of the context. Happens all the time. The longer running you go, the more data you try to load, the more likelihood of hallucination. You're burning tokens and you're reducing accuracy. So it's like a double whammy in there.
Exactly. Which is why it's always good to think of it as like every fresh session, I'm loading information from another system, I'm interacting, I'm then saving that information and then ending the session. Right?
Yep.
That
Save
is
it
like
back
the most
somewhere. Yep.
efficient way to like kind of like go through it. And then when it loads on the new, it's pulling from an accurate source of truth.
Mm-hmm. That's why we roll up all these numbers. We'll keep banging that drum. So we found, our discontinue, our fixed list. It's in that 4-page document summary that we won't walk through here, but we had an auto discontinue a product. So we've made room, right? So we've looked at our category mix to figure out what categories we have space for. We've made space inside that by discontinuing things that are dead here and in the market. We got a set of brands that we really are interested in. Now let's go through and figure out an order, right? Like you have to come to the action. Like analysis is interesting, reporting is interesting. Um, Place the order, right? I need you to build me an order. I want it to be right sized. I want it to be the perfect risk reward ratio. And I want a human in the loop. So in all of our examples here, we will draft an order in Happy Buyers that you can then load up, look at, tweak, put it through your lens, put it through the knowledge you have of what's happening at the stores and events coming up and things in there that might impact the size, your budgets. And you can send it directly to the vendors inside Happy Buyers. That's the big thing here is like, can I get to the order in here, right? Now, draft a purchase order for every new brand, size to local demand. Andrew went through this. I would really, really recommend for like order building. There's stuff baked into this order that is built that came through our last webinar on order building. Andrew mentioned our AI hub. All of the clips for that are on our website. They're on the AI hub on happycabbage.io. Court could probably drop a link in Slack directly to that AI hub so you can click and find it. There's some really, really good information in there around demand ceilings and accurate demand planning and all of the things that go into crafting a good order. So we're going through here, selecting SKUs. We're figuring out, guessing at wholesale prices, we're using market data. SKU only after ceilings, like this is where it's using a lot of our product line math and analyzing similar products that we've carried to figure out a guess at run rates. So you can figure out what's the minimum order that will let me test this product. So you can see here, it's kind of looking at all of the math at all of our pre-calculated levels, which you can do with very little context because it's got it, from one pull in here, to figure out how many units we figured out, how many units after we cap these pre-rolls. So we keep going through these, we call these demand ceilings. These are product lines in our app, right? In our app, in Happy Buyers, we have all of this math done for you. And we'll look at it at like the product line level, right? So like, what is a pre-roll? I sell, 162 pre-rolls a day across everything. I carry 67 pre-rolls. Here's my split on indica sativa hybrid across all of my pre-rolls. I can look at all this data. I can look at the best-selling pre-rolls and the THC percentages of those pre-rolls and, dive into batch testing. Like there's all this data we can pull in to figure out, okay, I got something that looks interesting in the market that's available. What do I guess that it's going to run? Because I mentioned guesswork, right? It is all guesswork. Your first order is definitely guesswork. How can I make an extremely educated guess on what that order should be, right? To get into a $3,000 order, which feels right size, which slots against openings in my menu I just created, which balances my category mix, which doesn't overrun me on 1 gram pre-rolls beyond what I've ever been able to sell in a 1 gram pre-roll, right? I'm doing the trade-offs in here. I'm doing the math in here. And I'm going to stage it as a draft order inside Happy Buyers, right? So if you haven't seen this functionality or this feature, we have ordering live in Happy Buyers. You can do VMI direct to brands at a product line level, so they can just suggest SKUs. You can build order with custom line items that you've never carried before that aren't present in your point of sale, and put the quantities in there and share that with the brand. You can attach the invoice back when you get it from the brand, so you can compare the actual order to your draft order and run analysis on the success of that order and the profit. We know that there has not been a source of truth for ordering, right? As a retailer, you have to order across multiple marketplaces. You have to order over text and email and phone calls. You're ordering however you can get that order out and whatever is the most efficient for you. The brands are happy to take the order. You can build all of those and send those directly in Happy Buyers, directly to the vendor, directly to the brand. And most importantly, you can have multiple draft orders that you're working on, and you can have the agents draft the orders for you. We've been talking about this for a long time. We have been talking about the future where, as a buyer, you can wake up Monday morning with your cup of coffee, with your cup of tea, with your glass of water, with your protein shake, and have a set of 20 draft orders sitting in Happy Buyers, dialed in with an explanation of why they were built, what's in them, what you should look at, that you can then tweak and send. We are doing that. We are very close to that. In some ways, you can do it through some of the tools we talked about the webinar last week. We're building agentic ordering into the app where you can summon that, through natural language by describing your order. Vendor management is coming very soon. You'll stay on board with this series. Watch out for our emails. You'll see that world as it is developing, really here in the next, really in this quarter and through the end of the year. But you can draft these orders. You can draft these orders programmatically. You can draft these orders agentically. This order was drafted based on these prompts. So this is a test run of the top brands and products carried by a competitor successfully. You need to right size and minimize waste and potential aged inventory. Pair this with your recommended discontinue to maximize profit at this store, right? Discontinue your products, make room, draft an order here that gives you a nice variety across minimum order quantities and small numbers of cases based on what's sold. And we have a draft order in the platform, right? What's great about this is I can come in here now and tweak it to my heart's content. So the world of agentic ordering that we're all building towards here is the idea that I have a set of orders, but I can tweak them. I can tweak those knobs, right? I can go in here and change my units to order. If I look at this, if I'm now saying, yeah, like our customer base, like 34% isn't really in our wheelhouse over here. So I'm going to bump that and change this to 60. So I get the same order quantity here, which is going to make that 2 cases. And that looks good, right? Now the human in the loop is coming in here, looking through all these details, looking through the notes, previewing this order to see what the vendor is going to see in here. And then I can save this order. And we can see that this is all my gap analysis. And I can send this order. And I can share this directly with a vendor, submit the order, have them respond back with invoices, start that conversation in collaboration, but build towards a fully automated order here based on market data about what's selling, based on profitability, based on room on my menu, with recommendations and actions to make room where there's not room by cutting low profit and bringing in a highly educated guess of what will make us more money to test 5 new brands and 20 SKUs in my open to buy list here for less than $3,000 that, is right sized. And I can watch. And if it sells like hotcakes in 2 weeks, let's get another reorder. And now you've got a slot on the menu. This is real world, like menu tweak analysis, market data combined with the Happy Cabbage data in Happy Buyers to get you what we think is going to improve profit on your menu. And Andrew, I'll let you walk through as our resident data scientist here. Like we talked about these demand ceilings in here. And one example was some pre-rolls it found. It was looking SKU by SKU, and it ended up suggesting first cut more pre-rolls than we've ever sold in a week, which is unlikely to be. We hope that's true, but we don't want to roll with that, right? That's a high risk order to say this is going to increase my pre-rolls by 10%.
Yeah, and that's good some like additional sort of like things to keep in mind and cautions while you're using prompts on this stuff. So let's say you're kind of chained through the process we just talked about, right? So you're asking, hey, where is my gap in my menu versus the demand data that you've dropped in, and that's your first prompt. And then it's flagging that to you, and then it's saying, and you're saying, okay, build an order off of that. If you're not pointing it to, hey, check my total volume of pre-roll sales, right? Or check like my comparable product lines, right? So this is where you can set product lines in Happy Buyers and set depth targets. It will want to try to grab everything. Like that's just how it works, right? And it will oftentimes suggest up to double the amount of what you actually need. And in particular, if you've given it a ton of very raw data to try to give it to that, and it has to do a bunch of like aggregation steps to even start to get to that, it will likely push you towards trying to do everything, right? It'll want to say you need everything, right? And this is why the math matters a ton, and this is why the settings matter a ton, and this is why like that's kind of like this iterative process. And I really suggest looking at our ordering webinar as well with AI is like using the prompts to set up the rules in the system that then prompts down the line can reference, right? So setting up hey, for my 1 gram pre-rolls product line, I want to make sure that I'm never like stocked more than 10 SKUs, right? Or saying, hey, I want you to make sure that you're always checking against my inventory health to make sure that I'm not trying to have more units than what I can possibly turn over at the category level or the brand level. Let's say, you're looking at a brand and it's suggesting, bring in a different product line from that brand, for example. You really got to make sure that you're like asking on those things because unharnessed, the AI will always bias towards maximum information with maximum blast radius of what they want you to do with the most convincing of argument.
Hmm.
Because the AI can never say I'm wrong unless you say, hey, are you wrong? And so the math matters, right? This is where like the detailed information under the hood on the fact that we're tracking in and out of stock events at every single inventory room, that we're checking if substitutional products are there, and then we're staging all those values to then be referenceable for downstream prompt analysis type of stuff. Cool. So in terms of like how to then like get confidence in it, right? So a lot of people maybe they played around with AI a little bit and they're like, oh, like this is like going off the rails. Oftentimes it is because it is one, bad data in, bad data out, and then two, you're not giving it enough sort of like specificity as to what you're looking for, right? So making sure you're pointing it at good data source, right? Lit alerts for market data is great on their API and MCP that we've tested. Happy buyers, like we've mentioned a few times, we've done a ton of the business logic behind the hood to make sure that the data that we're giving you is correct and biased towards things that are going to be most financially beneficial for the shop. Really pointing it to local data, being specific about that. And then I do want to really say, avoiding trying to just raw pull a bunch of raw information from the POS without that inference layer. It is incredibly expensive. It is incredibly token heavy. And like I mentioned, like the fact that it hasn't have these rule sets built in and these logic layers built in, it's going to give you likely answers that are going to tell you to way overstock and way overbloat your menus. It's going to say your best performing products are the aged products you discounted at 30%, right? It's going to say, hey, you're missing the 150 SKUs of extracts that I see in the market when the reality is you can't actually have 150 SKUs of extracts. That makes no sense, right? And so these are just things to like be buyer beware and cautious of and aware of as you're going through and being aware of that and treating the AI like it really needs to be told these things and repeatedly told these things and told to check its work against these things is going to save a lot of headaches on trying to get it to do the correct thing overall. Cool. So
And just summary here, this was our walkthrough, manual or automated, right? Takeaways, tactics to deploy. If you're looking at a market data report in PDF format from MJBiz, or you're looking at it in headset, or you're automating it in little alerts through AI here, look at your category mix versus local demand. Look at where that's a good thing. There's a good example here of like there's a place where you are specializing and it's healthy. Look at brands selling nearby you don't carry. Look what successful neighbors close to you hyper locally are stocking. Look at the profit of those, not just the run rate if you can, which you can get discount data. Look at the discount data. Look at the dead weight. You got to make room before you carry something new. Get rid of something, right? It's like when I tell my kids with their toys all the time. And please listen better than they do because I can't walk through any of their rooms. Get rid of something before you bring something new in. And then look at those early risers, right? If somebody's showing really good promise, can you get a small test order in? And I'll just say, get it small. Make it small. You can always reorder. Brands want your order. They want it as order. They want as often as you will send it. You can always place a second order. Make sure your first order is right sized. Is one of the big takeaways here.
Awesome. So with that, I think we'll transition. We have 5 minutes left. If anyone has any additional follow-up questions, we have the chat Q&A. I know Court, you have the spiel on exactly how to leverage Zoom to get it in. So if
We
anyone has, yeah, anyone has any additional questions, we're happy. I know that there was some stuff in the chat. So I think there was a question on Swede. It looks like we answered that.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, we can answer that one live. We had a question on the integrations on Swede. Anybody who's looked at Swede, using Swede, considering Swede knows that they have been kind of the OGs of the wall garden, meaning no open API until recently. We've talked to them a number of times. We have looked at the docs that they just released on the open API format. It looks like they have everything we need. If you are a Swede customer and you are interested in the things that we are showing here around ordering, around accurate demand projections, reach out to us. You should be able to pull an API key and we should be able to hit that API and get the data loaded up. So it's not on the slides yet. It's not officially supported, but it looks like everything is there to be able to build that out and set it up. So don't be shy. If you're on Swede, we'd love to talk to you. We'd love to get that API key loaded up and see what the data shows in your inventory.
Oh, okay. I think that might wrap it up. We're gonna have all this content, like we mentioned, available. Our AI hub is live on the website. You can go to that. You're gonna be able to see clips from this and our previous webinars, as well as example prompts, right? To go through the things that we're talking about today. I know sometimes it's helpful to like take a look at those, copy, paste them in, kind of leverage them a bit, and stay tuned for more coming out on different use cases, as well as some of our in-app agent stuff that will be live that will allow you to do a lot of this directly in the application with prompts. So more to come. Thanks all for joining.
Yeah, thank
Thanks
you all so
all.
much for joining. I'll also send out the AI Hub easily accessible at the top of our homepage, but I'll also send that link out in your recording email so you'll have it readily available.
Okay. Bye.
Till next time.
Bye.